Hi, this is Katie Weeks, your independent, close to my heart maker, and today I'm joining with the Makers with Heart for another episode of the Mystery Envelope Challenge. And this month, our envelopes come from Haight, and she sent us a package, an envelope full of papers from Hello Darlin. We got 6 pieces of 3x4 of the pattern papers, and basically she asked us to do something with a mixed media background for our project. So what I'm going to do here is start with some white cardstock, and I'm going to be adding some candy apple cardstock as well at the end. And I started kind of playing with how I might want to lay out these pieces of paper. I'm just using the one side, and eventually this might come into like a 4th of July or Memorial Day scrapbook page layout, and I want to do that mixed media along the top and the bottom of this page. And she gave us some ideas of what we could add to it. She sent some silver shimmer trim as well, which I always love to add to things. So I got out my watercolor paints, and I decided to go with just the basic red and the blue. So I just started kind of scribbling the red across the very top of my page, and I am using one of our water brushes that's available in the core catalog, and just putting that across the very top of my page. And then I'm going to come back and do one of the dark blues. I wanted to make sure that it went low enough that I would meet up with all of the other papers once I layered it on. And then the blue I used all the way across the bottom of the page. So today everybody has received the same envelope, and we are all uploading our projects showing you what we have decided to create with these Hello Darlin papers and a little piece of shimmer trim. And we could add other cardstocks, whatever colors we wanted. We could add more of the pattern paper from this pack, but I thought Dawn sent us plenty to stretch out and be able to use. Next, I'm bringing in some liquid pearls, and I wanted to use the silver pearl, and I brought in some stencils from the Dream Maker campaign that's currently available. If you have not ordered this bundle with Dream Maker, you need to check out what we have available. The papers are gorgeous. The stencils are awesome. So I am going through with this one that looks like a grid, and I kind of turned it on an angle. And in the bottom left and the top right, I'm doing it with my liquid pearls. Now these liquid pearls take quite a while to dry, but I was very careful as I was applying these not to get my hand in the previous spots that I had put them on the background. And then I washed my stencils and spatula between each stencil that I used. The next thing that I come in with is the stencil that has the dots, and the dots are different sizes. And again, I turned it on an angle, and I just kind of used the stencil as a guide to know how to line up my dots. I didn't really stencil them on, I just used it as a guide. So I did that in the top left corner and on the bottom right corner. So my mixed media that I'm using so far is the watercolor paints, and then I'm bringing in the liquid pearls, and then in just a few minutes I'm going to add in one more with another stencil, and it's going to be my Stickles, and I'm going to use the red Stickles that we have available, and I believe it's called Christmas Red. And the other stencil that I'm going to use has these little like hash marks on it, and I wasn't sure how it would work with the Stickles, but it actually worked out pretty good. And so I got a little bit off the edge, but I was able to get most of that off. So I used that in the middle of the top and of the bottom of the page. So I really liked all of the different items on here and how they played together. I think it really gives a 4th of July type feel with the glistening of the Stickles and the shine of the liquid pearls. And I had to let this dry overnight. I had to leave it sit because it really needed to dry. It did warp my paper some, but after I have assembled everything and after you see the final shots of the whole layout, I did flip it over and then stack on a couple of thick scrapbooks and things on top of it overnight, and it did press it out pretty good. And once it's in my page protector, you're not going to notice it where that kind of warped the paper some. It turned out really nice, actually. So after I put down the first 2 strips of paper on the side, I tried to make sure that everything lined up for the plaids. So I saw a white stripe that was very near the bottom for one, and so I made sure that matched up on the opposite side. And the same thing with the kind of starburst. I kind of made sure that those were approximately along the top at the same equal amount. And then I used my ruler on my mat that's underneath the page to put down the last set. And this one I turned the opposite way because I didn't want to cover up too much of the other papers. And I wanted to make sure I could see enough of the bigger bursts that were in that one. And next I'm taking my shimmer trim and just cutting it down the center to make it thinner, and then cutting one for each side, and I'm going to save the remainder of it. And here's my little trick. I put some adhesive on a scrap piece of paper. I usually try to leave a tail hanging off of my shimmer trim with that plastic so I can peel it off easily. But since I just had a small strip in the mail, I put down some adhesive on my scrap paper, and then I just used that adhesive to pull off the backing to the shimmer trim. That's the easiest way that I have found to remove that backing. So I put that across right at dead center, right at 6 inches from each side. And then I trimmed off any excess that was hanging off the ends. And I always do this with the directions. I always use it as my scrap paper if I need to stamp off something or make a puddle or anything like that. Then I made tails with part of this. And I thought I could still salvage another tiny little piece. And so I trimmed it off, and I just made some little banners that I could make stick up from behind the big photo mat that I'm going to place down in the center of this whole layout. So I pull off the plastic backing once again with that adhesive that's on my scrap paper, and I added these little banners at the top so that I could just have those sticking up. And I added this other little one as well. And then the last step that I did was very easy. I just cut a piece of cardstock, and it was the candy apple cardstock. I cut it to 6.5 by, let me think, 8 3/4. That way I could leave a 1/4 inch around everything. And then I put on a couple of my photo mats, and I did not add a title. I'm going to make a companion page at some point, and I don't know if I'm using it for 4th of July or Memorial Day weekend yet. So here's the page. I actually flattened it even more overnight by just letting all of that stuff set and dry good, and then I put a bunch of scrapbooks on it and flattened it up. If you've enjoyed this, just give me a thumbs up. Be sure you subscribe to my channel and follow my channel for more notifications. Have a great day.